Students, welcome to Module 2. Now, by now you've survived the first week, and we're going to be diving straight into the deep end of how technology impacts the actual business landscape. Now, this week we're going to be tackling AI and some job displacement inside of our case study. I do apologize, you're not going to be seeing my face in this video. My camera is spritzing out, so it's going to be just voice. Now, instead of having you write a generic, boring essay on what might happen with AI, for this case study, I'm pushing you into a high-stakes, real-world simulation. We're going to be looking at your own future goals, then we're going to step into the shoes of the HR director manager of a massive technology transition. Now, so let's break down exactly what you need to do in this case study to ace it, and then I'm going to go over with you how to look at your grades for the first case study, how the rubrics work, and of course the due dates. So inside Module 2, let's just go ahead and open up the case study. If I can get things to click and go. There we go. You can see the case study is AI and job displacement. You will watch your instructional video. You'll go through. You have 4 pieces: personal career stress test, the transition period scenario role play. This is where your memo is going to come in with that transition memo. We're going to have a real world experience for evidence and video analysis. Now, a lot of you left off the citations here when you're doing your outside research. You must go out into the wider web and pull in research. Then we're going to look at some ethical analysis, a personal reflection and conclusion, and we have the guidelines, of course, the same as always. Submit both your written materials to the discussion board and your restroom materials to the plagiarism detector, which is labeled plagiarism detector. All right. So first, let's talk logistics, because I want you to make sure you manage your time well. Official due dates for this assignment are every single week on Fridays at 5 p.m. Now, I know many of you are balancing work, family, and other classes, so here is my policy. While the technical deadline is Friday at 5 p.m., you are completely free to work through the weekend if you need to, but it's the weekend before. So if the deadline's on Friday at 5:01 p.m., your week begins, and you can work that Saturday and Sunday. You are just front-loading your weekend instead of it being on the end. I don't begin grading until Monday morning, but make sure that everything is in on Friday at 5 p.m. So me as professor, I work a traditional schedule. That's Monday through Friday. Technically, that's Monday through Thursday for students. Friday is for our administrative materials. Now, let's jump into this material for the memo itself. Now, let's look at part 2 of this assignment. You are going to be role-playing as an HR director of a mid-sized technology company, a marketing agency called Prestige Creative. Now, the CEO has bought an enterprise AI tool, and to keep the company from going bankrupt, you have to downsize the creative team by 30%. That's 15 actual real people. Your task is to write a transition strategy memo. And the key word here is transition strategy memo to the 35 employees who are staying. Now, here's what the students usually trip up on. They write them about the memo instead of writing the actual memo. We're not writing about how you would write a memo. You are actually creating, because you're role-playing the scenario, the physical memo that will go out to the 35 remaining employees. So do not write, in this section, I would tell the employees that ... Write the actual memo. This might require you to do some outside research, which is a lot of what college is about. Looking up those words like a transition memo. Go out, find an example. I've provided you an example inside the announcement, so make sure you go and look at those examples. Now, make sure you put in your to, from, date, and subject lines at the top of all your memos. This is a professional writing experience. And something you might do inside of an actual job. Speak directly to the remaining staff. Your goal is to balance your strategy and your empathy. So we're working on developing our language skills and the style and people we're talking about. So a chosen audience. We're taking our data, we're taking our information, we're taking our ethical implications, and we're phrasing that for the right audience. Now, you have to explain why this happened to save the company, look the survivors in the eye without sounding like a cold corporate robot, and lay out a concrete reskilling plan for those people leaving. Don't just say, we'll help them. Are you paying for data certifications? Are you setting up portfolio boot camps? Give me some real world experience or real world examples that you would do to help those people. Now, in the section 3 of this, before you type a single word, I want you to view your rubric. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now you can see here that you have your 4 pieces of your assignment that you're going to be grading on. I'm looking for each of these 4 sections. So if I open up my grading calculator here, I'm going to switch over to Module 2. This is how I'm grading you. This is what you're actually going to see when you get your feedback, your rubric feedback. You're going to get this print off right here, where I'm going to tell you your total points possible, the total points minus your deductions, your letter grade, your grade as percentage, and how you scored on each of these sections. Now, to show you how this data analytics stuff works in real life, you are graded by data and analysis inside this classwork, so we can make it uniform and fair. At the very top, you are graded by your grade level writing, your lexical variation, the use of how many functional words you use inside your essay, how many critical words you use, and the word variation. Now, this green section here, as a sophomore level course, you really should be grading or writing at a 14th grade level. I'm grading you at a 13th grade level. I expect about 350 lexical variation words, about 500 functional variation words, about 60 critical functional words, and a lexical variation of about 75. Then I'm looking for, did you reply to your peers? Did you do your post-text citation? Did you do your in-text citation? And was it submitted correctly? Did you submit it to the plagiarism detector? Did you submit it to the discussion board in a manner that the students, your fellow colleagues, could read? How many words? Remember, this is a 1,000-word minimum. So if you go below the word count, you get deducted. Now, once I get those few pieces in place, I now start looking at the completion of the assignment. Did you do the pieces? Is part 1 there? Yes or no? Is part there, the role play, your memo there? Yes or no? What about part 3, part 4, part 5? Is your concepts and citations in the correct place, and do they reference things there correctly? Is the organization overall fairly good? How about the mechanics of the writing? What are we looking at for actually transitioning between pieces? Did you do your database pasting exactly? And then once I looked to see if you have them, so if you are an average student on average grade level doing everything average, you will notice over here, let's see, that your average grade would be a 70.39%. That is average. Now, if you come over here and once I look at your assignments and I say, okay, you did your role play, you have your memo, it is submitted, and it's fantastic, I'm going to increase your range. And you've done your career test, it looks great, but your ethical analysis, well, that lacks a little bit. It's good, but it's not that great. Your personal reflection, you did it, but man, you did it wrong. So we're going to get a little deduction of points there. Your concepts and citations, you did them and you did them well. Those are going to go up. Your organization is done to a perfect level. So you can see here that not only am I grading you by completion, I'm grading by the functionality of your actual writing levels, and I'm grading you by the quality of each individual sections. And then once you get that, you will receive a student report that says, okay, here's my breakdown. And so I can come in here and I can see, okay, on my career test, I did it, I had an 8, and so I could have done a little bit better, but one thing we look at in analysis and data is when we see repeating patterns. So I see here in part 1 and part 2, both worth 10 points, that I got a duplicate grade of an 8 and 8. So why would I get an 8 instead of a 10? Well, if I'm a student, I'd be looking at this and thinking, well, that's probably because I wrote at grade level, I wrote all at standard level, and standard level is a 70%. So if I had come back up and I had wrote at 1 grade level higher, I had wrote 600 functional words and 70 critical words with a word variation of 95, all of a sudden my grades start going up and up and up. And you can see here, the more you put into it, the higher quality, the higher it is. As you go from this, it is very easy to receive a C in this class. It's a little difficult to receive a D. It's very easy to receive an F because you just don't do the sections. It is very easy to receive higher with a B, and it's extremely difficult to receive an A in the class. So it gets harder that you go different directions. but you use your student rubric to see what sections you're missing and fill in the blanks. I know a student's going to do 2 replies because 2 replies is what you've been taught your whole life. But what about the quality? Is the quality good? Is the quality high? Is quality low? Did you go outside and above? So we start going up into different pieces. But I want you to notice that if you leave something out, so maybe you did perfectly fine, you're an average student, you did average on every single thing. I'm going to come back over here, and you did all your sections to a very good level. Okay, so you're an 88%, but you left off your citations. Now you're at a C just by forgetting those citations. Or maybe you left off and you didn't do any peer reviews. You're now down to an 80%. Or maybe you did your peer reviews, but you only wrote 700 words. You're now at a D. So you can see how these things all tie together for your rubric. You have to do the terms and conditions of the assignment to get a high level grade. So I'm grading on everything from your tone, your memo, the depth, your ethical analysis. If your memo sounds like an auto-generated or a compliant robot, you're going to lose points. So make sure you read it out loud to yourself before you submit it. And for your submission, you have 4 sections. This is not one long run-off essay. Make sure you go in there and actually do the 4 individual sections. All right, guys, if you have any questions about your rubric, how you're graded, every assignment's graded the exact same way. This is how the feedback you will receive. You can find your feedback inside your grade book. Let me switch over here and go to student preview. Inside your grade book, open it up. You'll find your case study and you'll find your results inside that case study. If you've submitted something, right here you will find your rubric feedback where you can make modifications and changes to your grades or to your assignments and grow better going forward. All right, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Otherwise, check out your announcement. That's where you'll find an example of the memo. This video will walk you through the case study, how to actually accomplish it, and the rubrics and those types of pieces. Otherwise, have a very fruitful day. Bye, guys.